But let's get into the player ratings. Starting off with Kinski, 5s all round for Kinski. I think, look, I think in the early stages he did really well with the corners. You know, they were pounding us with the set pieces, and he was getting good fists to the majority of them. Did get tackled in those opening 20 minutes from Havertz, and then he managed to gobble it up. He's got to be doing better from the goal, the second goal that we conceded, because it's just not good enough. Like, the ball pretty much just bounces over his arm. And look, that was a decisive moment in the game. That was the goal that won them the game. And Kinski's got to be doing better. But I think, all in all, I think he did all right.
I think, considering in terms of, for a young goalkeeper, this is probably the toughest it's going to get. You know, away at the Emirates, in a derby, physical team, pumping in the corners. Like, in terms of like a game he'll have this season, I don't see it being much tougher for him. And then especially making your Premier League debut, it's going to be extremely tough. And yes, he did make some mistakes. He was too casual on the ball on a couple of occasions and got away with it. One of them, he had to dive at the ball to save the situation. The other one actually led to the Solanke chance, that one, but obviously Spence had to recover the situation on that front. But I thought from corners, he actually done really well for the majority of them. He came out, was positive, getting punches there. Don't think he claimed too many of them, but was just getting a fist on it and making sure that Arsenal weren't creating too many chances. But unfortunately, the one he didn't get to, they scored from. Again, a big slice of luck from Arsenal's point of view, but he didn't. He was kind of got bullied from that situation. And then the goal he conceded, and to be honest, it was only time, if you think about it, he was really asked to make a save. That was the only time he was, because all the other chances Arsenal had, they missed. Really, they didn't really forced Kinski into too many saves. I think on the day they had 3 shots on target. They actually didn't have too many shots on target. So the one time he was made to make a save, it was poor and it was weak shot stopping. So that cost him. I still think I saw enough from him to be positive, but unfortunately the decisive moments were poor from him.
Yeah, the reality is I think Vicario saves that.
Yeah.
The second goal, Vicario saves that.
But I would also say, would Vicario have dealt with some of the other corners?
Probably not. Probably not.
So,
probably not.
You know, give and take.
Pedro Porro up next. 4s all round for Pedro. Caught in complete no man's land for the second goal that we did concede. Whether it's down to instruction from Ange or it's down to Pedro. I mean, this just keeps happening on that side. Teams target our right-hand side week in, week out, and Ange or the player do nothing to kind of counteract that or to change that situation. And, you know, apart from him hitting the post in pretty much the last kick of the game, I thought he offered little, next to nothing in the game for us.
Yeah, I think he struggled. I think when he was in one-on-one duels against Trossard, there was a couple of times. There was one time he got spun. And Trossard got into the penalty area, and I think nothing came of it. But obviously there was one moment there. But I think by and large he actually dealt 1-on-1 when he was in position with Trossard quite well. Obviously the corner, he won the goal kick off Trossard, and unfortunately the corner went against him, so he got unlucky in that instance. He got caught out for the goal, but again, that's more to do with BISSOUMA being caught out in position he was in, rather than Porro being out of position, because we were in possession. So he was actually in position when he was out in possession, but because BISSOUMA got caught in a dangerous position, he got caught out of position. So So I don't really put that blame on him. I think it's more of the setup and BISSOUMA himself. But I thought going forward, you know, that's one of his biggest assets. And I know he hit the post, but that was never going in, really, to be honest. Unless Raya really gets caught out, I don't think that's ever going in. And I think his deliveries were okay from corners, but obviously we got a goal from one, but I don't think there's much to do with his delivery per se. I think he struggled a lot of the time, defensively as well, in terms of positioning. I thought when he was in position, I thought he got his tackles in, but he's just caught out of position too much, so gave him a 4.
Dragashin up next, 5s all round for Radu. He did make a good block with his back. I can't remember who was
from
on
Havertz.
Havertz, yeah, that took the shot. But
no, from Trossard, actually.
Was it Trossard?
Yeah,
no, I can't remember who it was. But yeah, I mean, for the corner that they did score, he's the one that gets his head on it and he heads it into Solanke and it goes in the back of the net. He did kind of beat Gabriel in the air, but I think Gabriel was just so aggressive up against him. He kind of forced Radu into making a bit of an error there. But yeah, I mean, he did okay at times, but yeah, he's just not providing what we need, particularly on the ball.
Yeah, it was a weird one. I thought first half, apart from the goal, he was actually looking a bit better, maybe because we were sitting a bit deeper and we obviously were out of possession for a lot of that half. So I thought he did quite a few good bits defensively. But then second half, I thought on the ball, once we were asked to put a bit more pressure on them, then he struggled a bit. Once he was defending a bit higher, and obviously they were catching us on the counter and leaving us a bit exposed, then I thought he started to struggle a bit. So when he was asked to do a bit more defending, he did all right. But when he was asked to, you know, be that centre back in possession and put a bit more risk, then he started to struggle a bit more. And I found wanting in that second half. Yeah,
you can't help but think that when you're talking about profiles, right, he's just not the right profile for what Ange wants from a centre back. That's just clear, and that's the reality.
Yeah, I think at the moment, look, again, he's still 22, he can grow, but I think as a profile, he's just not the right fit.
Yeah. Archie Gray up next. Sim gives him a 6. I gave him a 7. I thought he was one of the players on the pitch that did keep up their standards. Did come under pressure a couple of times, but look, I'm not going to fault Archie Gray and sit here and fault Archie Gray, because I think he's trying so hard. An 18 centre midfielder playing at centre back against Arsenal at the Emirates. I think he's just keeping up those standards week in, week out, and he's one of our, if not our most consistent performer at the moment.
Yeah, he's doing a great job. I think it has to be put into context. I think he's doing a great job for an 18-year-old midfielder playing at centre-back. I don't think if this was a centre-back playing the way he is playing, we'll maybe be giving him the same praise or the same leeway. But I think on the ball, brilliant. Again, so composed. Literally nothing phases him, and he always looks to play the ball forward, and I think he's doing great credit. Defensively, did some good last-ditch defending, but I think positionally caught out a few times and got some things wrong, which is to be expected. I'm not criticising him. I think he put in a decent display, and again, especially for the context, doing well. But I think, unfortunately, us playing as much as we're praising him, I do think, us playing him there is costing us at the moment. Not his fault, but I just think that's the situation we're in.
Jed Spence up next. 6 all round for Jed, and yeah, he was energetic on that side, getting up and down pretty well. He did lose the ball, though, in some key areas, and he had to get bailed out a couple of times. But look, he made that 1-2. He made that pass to BISSOUMA on the inside, and he should have received the ball back, and maybe Spurs are on the attack there. But instead, obviously, BISSOUMA loses it, and we go and concede. But yeah, I felt most of their attacks did come down the other side. So I think Spence dealt with Sterling pretty well.
Yeah, Sterling was a bit anonymous, to be honest. I think defensively did really well. Again, I know it sounds weird, because he did probably provide one of our best moments on the ball during the game, which was a brilliant run down the left and actually a perfect cross with the outside of his foot. Right, it was going to be right on Solanke's foot if it wasn't for a brilliant last-ditch challenge from Gabriel. So that was brilliant from Spence. But unfortunately, that was the only time he was able to do it during the game. And I do think in possession, the way he cuts inside all the time and doesn't use his left foot, always has to use his right foot, is actually kind of hampering us a bit in possession. Not his fault, again, because he's playing that position. I understand it. So I'm not blaming him, but I do think that is a situation. But I think defensively was really good and provided one of our better moments on the ball. So decent performance from him.
Lucas BERGVALL, Sim gives him a 7. I gave him an 8. He was the best player on the pitch for Spurs, hands down. He started the game in the 10, ended the game in the 6. Second half, he played in the 6, and I felt like he was just growing and growing as the game wore on. I thought he was a lot better in the 6 than he was in the 10. But in the second half, I mean, he was so influential to us. He was pretty much the only one in the midfield for us that was actually taking care of the ball, releasing the ball when it needed to be released, trying to spur us on to actually try and do something, but no one was really on his wavelength.
Yeah, I thought he was fantastic, especially in the second half, actually. I thought first half he competed and battled, but didn't really show for the ball too much as I would have liked, and I think struggled against that midfield 3. But once he moved to the 6, he was phenomenal. I thought his kind of ability on the ball to appreciate space, appreciate where team players are, not play himself into trouble, always seemed to have time on the ball all the time. His energy is absolutely phenomenal.
He's got eyes at the back of his head.
The way he glides past players and the way he opens up space for himself, fantastic. And he's got quality on the ball, progressing the ball forward. His passing was fantastic. His energy levels defensively, it seems as though he provides as much defensively at the moment as the likes of Sarr and BISSOUMA are providing, and he's got that quality on the ball. This guy's a talent. This guy is just a superstar in the making. He really looks like that, and I think he's developed so well throughout the season. Now we're seeing this BERGVALL where we hope to see that we signed. And he's been absolutely phenomenal. Another really, really good performance. But I feel it did take him a bit of time in that first half to really get into the game. And I thought Partey, Rice and Odegaard, were getting the better of him. But I thought second half, considering he played the 6 that whole second half, and we didn't really get overrun too much in the middle in that second half. That's a real credit to him. And I thought shining light in this game.
Pape Matar Sarr, 3 for Sim, 4 for me. Got hauled off at half-time. He did take a booking, so maybe that was due to it. But, I mean, his performance level was pretty shocking. Embarrassing defending for the second goal that we did concede. And he just had no sort of impact. We know with Sarr what he usually brings is a lot of energy levels, and he just failed to bring that in this game. And it's a really hard one to take because I don't know what's going on with Sarr at the moment, but he was going through such a rich vein of form at one point during the season. He just seems to have dropped off massively, and he just can't seem to regain any sort of form.
Yeah, 100%. I think he was disappointing on the ball, just not showing for it. To be fair to him, a couple of moments in the first half where he was striding into the space and making Partey tracking back, and obviously he earned the corner for the goal we scored. So there was a couple of moments in the first half where he looked like he might really be causing Arsenal problems, but unfortunately it was literally a couple of moments and then really struggled. He didn't really take the game to Arsenal. I thought for the second goal he was pretty pathetic, to be honest. He should be absolutely full pelt towards Trossard and making sure that we're dealing with that situation, making sure he doesn't get the shot off. I thought he was lazy. I thought he was jogging. I thought too often he wasn't showing for the ball. He wasn't being brave. He wasn't winning enough of his individual moments on the ball to really put pressure on Arsenal, and I thought he was rightly hauled off at half-time. Just wasn't doing enough, and I thought again was kind of in a way it showed up the fact that we played that second half of BERGVALL, Maddison and Decky, and they probably did more off the ball than when we had supposed legs of BISSOUMA, Sarr and BERGVALL in the middle. So I think that was case in point there.
BISSOUMA up next, 3s all round for BISSOUMA, and after a couple of good games where we've all been praising him, it was a massive step in the wrong direction once again for Yves BISSOUMA. Can't seem to find any sort of consistency, and this ain't a new thing. This has been going on pretty much since we signed him, to be honest, under a couple of different managers, and embarrassing how he just has no sort of care for the ball whatsoever. He had so many options to play it for when he gave the ball away for the second goal. He had the 1-2 with Spence, he had Sarr on the inside, and he just runs into trouble, loses the ball, and he's not even busting a gut to get back either. So I'm really, really disappointed with Yves BISSOUMA, because you're looking at the midfield that started the game: BERGVALL, Sarr and BISSOUMA. He's supposed to be the one that's supposed to be leading that midfield. He's the one that's 27, 28 years of age. He should be coming into the prime of his career right now, and players like BERGVALL have to carry the can for him. It's ridiculous, to be honest, and he got hooked at half-time, and quite rightly so.
Yeah, it's nowhere near good enough, and the reality is it's happened so many times now that we know we just can't trust him in these big games and these big moments to not lose concentration and not do something stupid to put us in trouble. And as you say, he's an experienced player. He's now 28 years of age. He should know, he should appreciate where players are on the pitch and in space. He should be scanning. He should be knowing where the players are and not play himself into trouble, not lose the ball in such a dangerous situation, especially as they've just got back in the game, Arsenal. Ridiculous moment from him. I thought off the ball, actually, by and large, nowhere near enough aggression from him, nowhere near enough tackles being made, nowhere near enough getting closer to these players. He just was second best to everything yesterday, and it was just one of these lackadaisical performances from BISSOUMA. And again, similar to Sarr, rightly hooked at half-time, nowhere near enough in that middle, and probably in that middle is where we lost the game in that first half, and he was a big part of that.
Yeah. Moving on to Decky, Sim gives him a 4, I gave him a 5. Pretty much a very lackluster display from Decky. You can clearly see in the last 3 or 4 of his performances, very similar. His energy levels are not there. The physicality is not there. He did have a chance from the corner where he makes a really nice touch to make some space for himself, but Raya was equal to the shot. But apart from that, and a few nice touches in the second half, he was really ineffective, and he needs a rest. He needs a rest. The guy is clearly running on empty, and it's funny that ever since he said he doesn't get tired, he's been pretty much tired every single game since then. Yeah.
I thought didn't get anywhere near enough spare change out of Lewis Skelly. I thought Lewis Skelly bullied him, which should never be happening when he's a teenager up against Decky. I know he's not old, but he's a bit more experienced and strength-wise one of his biggest assets. I thought he got bullied by Lewis Skelly in that right-hand side and didn't really impact the game enough, apart from that one chance, which, to be fair, the way he took the chance in terms of the touch was really good, but the finish, he's got to be doing better and putting that past Ray, albeit it was on his right foot. I thought it was improved once he moved to the middle and started impacting the game a bit more, but unfortunately just didn't have the quality on the day to really pick the lock for Arsenal. And once Arsenal get in that shape, they're a formidable force to break down, and they showed it on the day, and we just weren't able to do it. I don't think it was absolutely horrendous, and it was, again, another poor performance from him, which carries on a bit of a theme in recent weeks. So, yeah, so it's not been good from Decky.
Next up is Dom Solanke, falls all round, another player that's just being overplayed at the moment, and I feel he's also running on empty a little bit, and he got bullied as well. I thought Gabriel shackled him so well throughout the game. Every time we decided to lump it up and go long to him, he couldn't make it stick. Those Arsenal defenders were on him like a rash, and he just couldn't get any spare change out of anyone, and I failed to remember anything really positive that he did do in the game.
Yeah, the only thing is he nearly got on the end of that Spence cross, but Gabriel beats him to it. There was at one moment where Decky wins the ball half the pitch from Raya poor pass, and then gives it to Solanke, and he's got a chance to get the shot off, but it's too easily blocked, and Arsenal come away with it. He's just struggled to really battle with Gabriel and Saliba. And look, they are the two probably harder centre-backs to battle with in the Premier League, so it's not like it's a massive surprise, but Solanke's a big, strong guy, and at his physical best, he should at least be giving him a bit more trouble. I've seen him do it. I've seen him play for Bournemouth and give him a lot more trouble than he gave them yesterday. So disappointing from him, and just wasn't able to impact the game at all, really.
Sonny up next. Sim gives him a 4. I gave him a 6. I mean, probably a 5 is a better reflection. He did score, put us in the lead with a deflected shot. But yeah, I felt like in the first half, if anything was going to happen from an attacking perspective, it was going to come through Son. I thought he looked the more dangerous out of the three, out of our duo in a trio of Solanke, Kulusevski and Son. But that doesn't mean he played well, because he really didn't. And I just gave him a mark up for putting the ball in the back of the net.
Yeah, nice goal. I know it got deflection, but obviously got the strike on, had to keep it low. It was a difficult volley to take, and he took the shot on and got the goal. But I thought by and large, again, really didn't impact the game. I thought Timber had him in his pocket for large parts. I thought he struggled to really get some sort of impetus in the game. And it's more poor form, unfortunately. I know he got a goal, and to be fair, he's got a good record of the Emirates, and he carried that on. And at that point, we'd ridden out the storm of 1-1 up, and you think, okay, maybe we might start to put in a good performance here. But never happened, really. And then second half, again, rightly taken off. Like, I thought Richarlison showed a lot more from when he was on the pitch, and Sonny did from a lot of the game. So disappointing, in my opinion, and we need more from him.
Yeah. And this is like a string of pretty much carbon copy performances, unfortunately. Brennan Johnson came on at half-time. Sim gives him a 3. I gave him a 4. Couldn't make any sort of impact out on that right-hand side. I thought he was shackled so well. And, yeah, just poor once again.
Again, comes off the bench, doesn't impact the game, really. A bit anonymous. And Lewis Skelly, again, just easily dealt with him. He's coming on against, well, I guess it's half-time, so I wouldn't call it tiring legs, but he's coming on to make an impact, to really try and ask different questions of that Arsenal backline. Just wasn't able to do it. Didn't even get on the ball too much. He offered nothing. Yeah, well, one thing I would say is I thought, in general possession, a weird way, we were building up quite a bit through that side, and I thought he did all right in build up. But once we got to the final third, it was just nonsense. It was just nowhere, and I thought, didn't offer anything really in that final third, which is where he earns his money.
Maddison, another player who came on at half-time. Sim gives him a 5. I gave him a 4. I mean, he offered a tiny bit more than Brennan Johnson, a few nice passes here and there, looking to get our moves going, but still pretty much offered nothing.
Yeah, I think he improved our in-possession play a bit, which is why we were able to keep a bit more possession. Obviously, Arsenal probably allowed us a bit more possession anyway, but I thought he was keeping possession a bit more and allowing us to try and ask different questions of Arsenal. But a few times he had moments to take a shot on from decent position and declined to do so. there's a few times he could have made quicker decisions and just wasn't able to. A couple of times he got to the byline and his cross got cut out. At least he was trying different things, so I gave him a bit of credit for that, because before we didn't seem to be trying anything. But it just wasn't enough, and it just wasn't able to create anything of substance. And a player like Maddison, that's why he's in the team for those moments of magic, and he just wasn't able to do any of those.
And last of the playing staff, Richarlison, 6s all round for Rishi. Good to see him back. He came on with a bit of extra energy levels. You could see he actually really wanted to make something happen, put in a few crosses, but yeah, just basically just gets marks for energy.
Yeah, I think he actually had a decent cameo. I thought they struggled to deal with him a bit more than the other players. I thought he was able to get a bit of separation. He was able to get some crosses in on that left-hand side and looked a bit fresher than Sonny did. But, of course, obviously nothing really happened. But I'm just giving it because I did think he looked a lot sharper. And when he was on the ball, he looked like there was a bit more potential there when he was on the pitch. There was at one moment, though, he does lose the ball in the middle of the park and Arsenal weren't on a counter, and that nearly put us in trouble. But apart from that, I actually thought it was a fairly decent cameo from Rishi, but not too much in it.
And last but not least, the manager, Ange Postecoglou. Sim gives him a 3. I gave him a 4. Yeah, what can I say about Ange? I thought, he lacks to see like that teams clearly target us week in, week out on the right-hand side. Doesn't seem to counteract it. Trossard had pretty much the freedom of his our right-hand side for pretty much the majority of time he was on the pitch, and Pedro Porro nowhere to be seen. And this is a weekly occurrence now. Well, I say now, it's pretty much been all season. A weekly occurrence where teams can just target us down that side and nothing is done about it from a tactical perspective. It's down to him. You got to get your players up for these kind of games. Particularly, you got to drum it into your players what a North London derby means to the fans, what it means to the club, and his record in North London derbies is absolutely abysmal. Played 4 now, lost 3, drawn 1. Probably one good performance out of the 3. And look, he's on the. He's got to be on the brink. He's got to be on the brink. I'm not going to sit here and call for the manager and whatever, but with the results that we're seeing, it's just nowhere near good enough. It's been nowhere near good enough for any Spurs team, even a Spurs team of the 90s, the results that we're showing at the moment. If Man United win tonight, we're level on points with 15th. We've got Everton coming up. We've got Leicester coming up. And, they're relegation 6-pointers at this point in time.
Yeah, it's the form we're on is embarrassing. How can you not get these players up for a North London derby in the situation that we're in and get them not being passive like they were in the opening? I mean, I get it, Arsenal always going to put it on you, and it's going to be difficult. They are still one of the best teams in the league, but there just was a lack of fight, a lack of aggression. You saw when United went to Anfield, those players were just up for it. And I know they got the draw, and even then they could have lost, but you could just see a difference in the mindset, how aggressive they were and how they just went for it. Spurs just lacked that. They lacked that fire in their eyes yesterday. They lacked that aggression, and that was really, really concerning and really worrying. Obviously, I thought tactically, it's a weird one, because I thought in the first half, as much as we were second best, I mean, we were riding out the storm, and it wasn't for a bit of luck. And right at the end of the half, we might have been going into half-time on 1-0 up. But at the end of the day, Ange prides himself for how we are on the ball and that aggression, that intensity, and that just wasn't there. And he knows that in that first half, and that's what he said. Second half, again, trying to break him down. We'll give him possession. We'll ask him. We had the ball, and Arsenal was saying, "What can you do to us?" And the answer was nothing. And he's got to take responsibility for that with how he's setting up the attacking and the patterns of play. And look, we need to change. We need to improve, because, as you say, the results are extremely bad, and we're getting dragged into this conversation about potential relegation, and that is unacceptable for a team like Tottenham and how much money we've spent and all that kind of stuff. So that absolutely needs to change, 100%. And I think you can see it on his face. You can see he knows that it needs to change, and that's the end of the story. If it doesn't change, then he will be gone. I do believe that if it doesn't change, but I do think I'll give him the time to change it.
Well, there you have it. That is our player ratings for the 2-1 defeat at Arsenal yesterday. Let's move on. Super chat here from